Good afternoon, everyone. This is Natalia Ferrer reporting from Georgetown Daily. As you guys have heard, there is a recent case brought to the U.S. Supreme Court regarding whether or not kidneys should be allowed to be sold and bought. We've taken several people's opinions regarding what they think about this case, and the general consensus seems to be that kidneys should not be allowed to be sold and bought for different motives, but we've included several clips so you guys can see for yourself. So James, what is your take in this matter?
Yeah, I'm in favor of kidney sales. I think people have a right to their own bodies and what they'd like to do with them. I also think that there's a good market out there. People there's a demand for this, and people shouldn't be limited by the government when the government should not have control over people's own bodies and what they'd like to do with that.
So Danielle, what's your take on this matter?
I do not think it's ethical. People should not be able to buy and sell their kidneys because I think that a lot of ulterior motives will come into play instead of just the noble reason of trying to help someone else.
So Spencer, what's your take in the matter?
I really don't think people should be allowed to sell kidneys. I don't think there should be a market for it because, if poor people, it really encourages them to just give away their kidneys. And, if they actually need a kidney later and they've already given one away, there's no way they're going to actually be able to buy one. Also, I think it's really going to encourage people to steal kidneys. There's going to be really a market on that. So I think there'd be a lot of rising crime where people, are kidnapped and then kidneys are just stolen. So I think there's a huge problem with that, if they opened up the market that way.
Thank you so much for your opinion.
Yeah.
So Leah, what's your take in this matter?
I think that people should be able to donate kidneys because people obviously really need them, and it's a great thing to do if you don't have any problems with yours. However, I think that selling organs only complicates the huge problem with the black market, and I feel like selling parts of your body is similar to selling your body for sex, which is prostitution, which is illegal, and I think using parts of your body for profit would only complicate the problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Georgetown Daily. I'm Natalia Ferrer, and I'm here with Key, a lawyer on the prosecution side. Recently, a case has been brought to the Supreme Court regarding whether or not kidneys should be allowed to be sold. Key will provide us his insight on what he thinks about the case. So kind of to start things off, what are your thoughts about this case and how do you feel about it being brought to the Supreme Court?
I think it's a fairly interesting case. There are definitely some legitimate concerns involved. On the side of defense, I'm sure they'll be arguing about the right to secure life-saving treatment, and in fact there are long wait lists in America for organs every day. So there is indeed a legitimate interest on the side of defense. But we're going to argue that the government also has a legitimate interest in protecting the sanctity of one's body, and therefore the sale of organs should be disallowed under NOTA.
Okay, so you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what side will you be in favor in the debate, and kind of what will be your main arguments?
So the prosecution's duty is to uphold the federal law on the National Organ Transplant Act. Under NOTA, established in 1984, the sale of organs is illegal. And the arguments that we are essentially forwarding are that the US government has a legitimate interest, basically on moral grounds, both on the idea that individuals shouldn't be allowed to contract out parts of their bodies, especially ones that involve intensive surgery like kidneys or livers. But we're also going to argue that there is also a moral argument which requires state intervention in the form of preventing exploitation of the poor. Because when the sale of organs is allowed, naturally the people who would be most inclined to sell their organs are people who are in desperate need of money. And we think that the state has a legitimate interest in preventing that from happening.
And then, kind of to go along with that, what do you think are the biggest challenges that you foresee for your team? Are you tackling them right now, or are you going about with that?
We think the Supreme Court in general has shown very great leeway in interpreting the 14th Amendment in particular, especially the right to privacy in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Certainly, it seems to be a personal matter when it comes to the sale of kidneys, because people seem to think that they should be allowed to do whatever they want with their bodies. But it's also true that in certain instances, the state has the ability to intervene when the right to privacy is stretched too far. And so that's the arguments that we're going to forward.
Thank you so much for your time, Key. It was great to hear from you. Thank you. We have the pleasure of having Austin Cleary today here with us to provide some insight with this new case being brought to the Supreme Court. So to start things off, Austin, how do you feel about this case being brought to the Supreme Court, and what side will you be taking in this debate?
Thank you. We're very excited that it's finally reached the Supreme Court. We believe that our client, a kidney broker, is innocent, and we believe that the law is a complete overreach of the federal government's powers, and we are looking forward to our day in court when we can prove that.
So what side will you be taking in this debate?
I'll be on the defense side, and we will be challenging the law on constitutional grounds.
And then what main arguments will you be defending or presenting to the court?
We have three main arguments. First, the Eighth Amendment, which is the cruel and unusual punishment. We think that the federal government banning the right to sell kidneys is cruel and unusual to the patients dying every day on the waiting list, and we think that our client was just simply trying to write that, and the government's overreach is causing cruel and unusual punishment. The second is, as established by the Roe v. Wade, the 14th Amendment gives a right to privacy, and we think that people can grow their hair as far as they want, and they should have the same rights over their kidneys. It's their body. The federal government should not be telling them what to do. And third, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says the Commerce Clause gives the federal government the right to regulate commerce between the states, but not within them. That's a power expressly granted to the states themselves, so we don't think the federal government should have the right to regulate kidneys as long as it stays within the state, as is this case.
Great. And what challenges do you foresee for your team in this debate?
The prosecution is obviously very talented. In addition, it's very difficult to overturn previous laws, and the court is often concerned to be perceived as reaching and legislating from the bench. So that's probably our main concern, but we think our arguments are strong enough that they'll see the light of day.
Thank you so much for your opinion, Austin. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in. It'll be interesting to see how this case unfolds. Please be sure to stay tuned, as we are constantly providing the most reliable news.